So I understand some folks had a few issues with the video, and I will make sure that when we send out the slides as well as the links, we will make sure to send the link to this video. It's a really interesting one, and it really discusses what a current grad or a past grad student really enjoyed about the university and their time here. Again, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Travis Kleins. I'm the communications manager and graduate admissions counselor for the graduate school. And with me today, we have two graduate assistants, and I will allow them to introduce themselves. Let's start with Veronica, and then we'll move on to Laura.
Yeah, so I'm Veronica. If you were at the last webinar, you probably remember me. I'm a student affairs administration student, and I'm also a graduate assistant in the graduate school.
Hi, I'm Laura. I am a dual master's student in student affairs administration and public administration. I am also a graduate assistant in the graduate school, so I may have communicated with you before.
So the way we like to start our webinars, especially if you were present at the last one, is to look at some of the common questions that you asked when you got this invitation. And so we'll go through those briefly, and then we will jump right into our presentation today. So what is the on-campus gym like? Having used it before, it contains a myriad of things from a pool to basketball courts to cycling classes, free weights, things like that. Anything anyone else would like to add about the rec space?
Yeah, I'm just going to echo some of what you said. So FitSpace, it does require a membership to have to be a part of it, but that does include all of the classes and the equipment, everything like that. And there's also wellness and personal training options available, swim lessons, and there's non-credit courses that one can take to enjoy some of the facilities as well.
Of course, one of the most asked questions is about food on campus. And we have a little bit of everything from Dunkin' Donuts now, Subway, Starbucks. Our on-campus food provider, Sodexo, provides food in our different dining halls. We have the marketplace, which hosts some both on-campus fare as well as food from restaurants that are off-campus, such as Tully's, Copper Top, and Mogul. Which is an Indian restaurant. We've got, I mean, you name it, and you'll find it here. It really is a large selection. And then only just a mile away off campus, there are food options. So you will not go hungry here, that's for sure. And if I didn't mention it before, if at any time you guys would like to add anything, please jump on in. And then for the next question, the best places to study, I would say personally for me, it was either the library, just finding a secluded corner and getting to work, or when it gets a little warmer, studying outside. It's not the most efficient, but it's definitely probably the most relaxing. Any of your favorite spots?
Yeah, I mean, studying outside is definitely great, especially now that the weather's been nicer. I know for me, there's a relatively new graduate student study space in the Bartle Library here on campus. It's exclusive to graduate students. You need your grad student ID to get in. And I really like it because it's a quiet study space. So if you really need to kind of focus and get your work done, it's a really good place to go.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add to that, also depending on what school you're in, what department you're in, what building, there are some sort of spaces that are reserved for those students and their programs as well.
And just to real quickly go back to question number 2, we do have vegetarian options and some gluten-free options depending on the different restaurants or different dining halls have the options. The marketplace has a few options. There is halal in the area, I believe. I'm not 100% certain about on campus. And then going to the next question, off-campus housing. So we do have off-college campus, off-campus
Off-campus college.
And that has a database actually of housing options, places for rent, things like that. And so that's where we usually like to point students to first sort of get their bearings and see what options there are. In addition to your usual, apartments.com or a Craigslist, things like that are all places and ways that students, including ourselves, have found housing.
And I believe we're going to post a link to that And again, it's a local area housing database that we have. So everything is within our area, and you can speak with folks who have had experiences renting from certain places, dealing with certain, rental properties, that kind of thing.
And then finally, transportation. Some of you may have vehicles, some of you may have not, may have vehicles but may not. And that there are both a university-run and a city-run bus service. We do have Uber, Lyft, things like that. We will go into more depth, but there are a variety of options if you don't have a vehicle, if you live a little farther away, things of that nature. So Binghamton is a premier public university. We offer an excellent education at a reasonable price. We're listed as one of the top 50 public universities in the nation by U.S. News and World Report. And we're number 44 for all institutions in the nation doing the most for the American dream. That's by the New York Times. We're number 4 among the most affordable top-ranked institutions in the U.S., again by U.S. News and World Report, and number 8 best value among the nation's public colleges for out-of-state students by Kiplinger's Personal Finance. And I'll give you a little breakdown of the campus community. So our total enrollment is approximately 17,000, with our graduate student population making up about 3,600 of that. We have 16% international students, and we have over 250 student groups. And making up that we have over 90 academic programs, and that includes both our master's and our doctoral programs. And actually, while we're here, I'll briefly have Veronica and Laura talk just a little bit about their program, just for a minute.
Want to go ahead?
Yeah, so I know Laura is a dual student, but we're both in the Student Affairs Administration program. And I would say our program is kind of more so based on like working in higher ed and working with students, things of that nature. And Laura can also speak to kind of like the public administration component as well.
Yeah, so Binghamton has some dual master's degree programs, which is pretty exciting. So Veronica and I are in Student Affairs Administration, and I've also tacked on the public administration component as well. So, it kind of goes hand in hand, talking about nonprofits, leaderships, organizations, some stuff that can really work well together, managing people, that kind of thing. So, and it's a pretty close group.
Excellent. And the other thing I want to mention real quick as we're going along here, off camera we have Lisa D'Amelio, as many of you in the chat can see, helping to answer any questions. If she doesn't get into any of the questions, we will, like I said, be answering questions towards the end, and that will be another way of getting to all your questions. So again, if she doesn't get to you, we will do our best to reach towards the end. And then I also recommend that anyone to please reach out, but there'll be more information on that as we get towards the end here. So now back to transportation. So Binghamton is located only a few hours from multiple different cities, such as New York City, Niagara Falls, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., Montreal, Boston, and there's a few ways of getting there. Like I said earlier, we do have two bus services, off-campus college transport, OCCT, affectionately called the blue buses because of the color of the buses, and that is student-run. That runs just about anywhere from campus to any of our downtown campuses, things of that nature. And then Broome County Transit, and that is the city-run bus service, and that will go a little farther to neighboring cities, towns, in addition to the university, local malls, grocery stores, things like that. And sort of the hub of transportation is the Greater Binghamton Transportation Center. And from there, you can get coach buses, Greyhound, Megabus, our bus, and Trailways. And that will go to any sort of a city, such as, again, New York City is a popular destination, Niagara Falls, Philadelphia, things like that. And then a recent addition is Zipcar, Uber, and Lyft have been added to the area. I've used that quite a lot. And if there's anything you guys would like to add about getting around the area, by all means.
Yeah, I mean, I know, kind of going off of what you said earlier, I mean, I do have a car on campus, but I find myself really often using the off-campus transport system, the blue buses, just because it's more convenient. You don't have to worry about parking or anything like that. You just kind of hop in and hop out.
Here's a brief overview of some of the things that we offer here on our campus. The Union Undergrounds, which is sort of a central hub of campus, contains things like a billiards room, bowling, arcade, ping pong, table tennis, all sorts of things. We also have a roughly over 100-acre nature preserve on the top of campus, and which is great during especially the warmer months, fall, things like that, for students to walk. It's an excellent way to sort of get away from all the pressures that can happen during your master's programs. Um, we also offer late night Binghamton. That's on Friday and Saturday evenings. It often has different themes, events, foods, things like that. It's another way, actually. It's another spot where a lot of GA graduate assistantships are through the office that hosts late night Binghamton. We also offer have the Bare Necessities Food Pantry, and that's for any student, be they undergrad, graduate, doctoral, anything like that. It functions as a regular food pantry would for those who are in need, those who have to make ends meet, things like that. And that we also have Campus Rec, which a lot of people have been asking about. And again, as Laura said, there is a membership fee included, and it does contain, again, swimming, wellness center, things like that. There's no cost for the food pantry or anything like that. Again, it's open to any students. Another thing briefly about, again, the housing options. So there are limited on-campus apartment-style housing for grad students in what are called our apartment campuses. Communities. However, most of our students choose to live off campus for the affordability, the bus service, as well as sort of experiencing what downtown life has to offer, in addition to, focusing on campus on, your education, extracurriculars, things like that. And the off-campus college office helps to connect students both with other roommates, housing options, helps students review leases, make sure that everything is as it should be. Is there anything you guys want to add about housing, or maybe how you chose where you live currently?
I mean, I know for me, like I chose to live downtown because it was closer to the downtown center where a lot of my classes were last semester, especially. So just like the proximity of that was a big factor for me in choosing where I wanted to live. And I live in one of the apartment complexes downtown. So I have my own bathroom. I live with one roommate. It's a really good arrangement for me. So that was kind of my mentality in picking where I wanted to live.
Binghamton University, again, as we said earlier, offers students a lot of options when it comes to places to eat. Our marketplace, which is a fairly new area, contains over 10 different sort of restaurant style places to eat, anywhere from Indian fare to sushi to Korean barbecue, Italian food. We also have a fireplace, a lounge, and a patio for both indoor and outdoor eating, um, things like that. And in addition to not only the marketplace and the dining halls, we also offer um, cafes such as Jasmine's, Einstein Brothers, which is a fantastic bagel place on campus, Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts, Subway, all sort of things like that. I personally love Dunkin' Donuts, and I'm very happy that they are on campus. How about you guys? What's your favorite place to get coffee?
In terms of coffee, for me, probably Jasmine's in the library, just because I find myself in the library a lot, and that's convenient.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna say coffee so much, but there's definitely whatever you're kind of in the mood for. What you can go to the marketplace, and if you're, wanting Asian food or Indian food, you want sushi, you want, basically anything. It's really set up, to be kind of inclusive on what people like.
Yeah, definitely. Somebody was asking again earlier about like vegetarian options and vegan options. I mean, I went vegetarian a few months ago, and I've been able to find tons of food options that like accommodate my diet. So, sort of irrespective of what you prefer to eat, there's lots of different options on campus for you.
So up next are the graduate student organizations. There are different ones from anything sociocultural, multicultural organizations, ones based off academic pursuits. Some of the examples of sociocultural ones are the Indian Graduate Student Organization, which hosts multiple events per year, like such as Holi. There's the Chinese Student and Scholars Association, the Graduate African Student Organization. There is no sort of limit to the different cultural organizations we have. In addition to that, the academic or department-based organizations, anthropology, art history, chemistry, education, engineering, they all have their own department-based programs or department-based organizations. Um, the MPA GSO will host an annual event, Party with a Purpose, which raises money for an incubator for philanthropy-based groups and events. Art History will do a Crossing the Boundaries event, which is an annual grad student conference. Since Laura was in the MPA program, I'll let her just talk briefly about the Party with a Purpose.
Yeah, so Party with a Purpose is something that the MPA led, public administration led. It's part of the CCPA school. And what they do is the whole thought behind it is giving local through local. So we donate money and give money back to a local nonprofit organization. And I just wanted to add another thing that's important about the academic-based organizations. It's also good as far as your networking skills to get yourself involved in stuff like this, so you can find connections through, once you have your degree and are looking for professional employment. It opens up those doors as well.
Now, in addition to the classwork students will do, joining other organizations and getting involved, there's also multiple different speaker organizations or speaker events throughout the year. And some of the most popular are up here, such as the Harper College Dean Speaker Series, the Sociology Seminar Series, Cool Connections Hot Alumni, which pairs students with recent or not so recent alum to just sort of informally discuss, how did they get where they got, what skills did they use, what to take advantage of while you're here on campus or doing your program. We've got the Breloff Lecture, which is a business-based lecture each year through the School of Management, which discusses various topics. We have just a myriad of cultural speakers, and then we also have the TEDx each year, with it being a different series, different sort of genre, different speakers. I will let you guys talk a little bit more about the TEDx from this past year.
Well, I went to this past year's TEDx, and it was really interesting. It was about 2 hours long. There were 12 speakers, and each of them covered a different topic. And they're kind of in segments as far as some sort of overall topic, whether it be sustainability, community engagement, something like that. They're covered, and it's just, the university takes an opportunity to invite speakers in, and it's a really good event. A lot of people attend, and it's kind of interesting to learn something new about something you may not know about.
However, we also understand as a university that a lot of things happen outside the classroom, between organizations that are sort of run through our student association. So that's HackBU, the Robotics Club, Pipe Dream, which is our student-run newspaper, WHRW, which is our student-run radio station. We have intramural and club sports, soccer, bubble soccer, rugby, basketball. I've done dodgeball, all sorts of things like that, in addition to our outdoor pursuits, which are groups and organizations that focus on sort of outdoor events, the Binghamton Snowcats being one. We've also got, in the outdoor pursuits, there's hiking, tree climbing, I believe actually is one of them, scuba diving, all sorts of things like that. I personally was in a part of the Pipe Dream, which is our student-run newspaper, writing articles just as one would in any other sort of news setting, under deadlines, as well as the WHRW, which is the student radio station. learned sort of all the rules and regulations that are required for running your own show, picking out the music, all of that information. And so it's been a lot of fun to get involved. Are there any specific clubs or anything like that that you guys want to talk about that you were involved with or that you know of?
I mean, I know the bubble soccer is pretty popular, and it's kind of fun to watch as well. I know friends who've done it. I know also like our university police department gets involved in like certain clubs and different like sporting events and stuff. So it's nice to see that level of campus involvement as well.
In addition to our intramural sports, we are also a Division I college. So we're part of the America East Conference, and we have 21 different collegiate sports teams. Some of the ones up there are the basketball, swimming and diving, soccer, baseball, softball, volleyball, lacrosse, wrestling, and tennis. And those are always great fun. Visiting the basketball games, we've got I mean, those are always packed. We've got different sports. If you like soccer, we've got often soccer games going on, things like that. And that was one of the more enjoyable things that lets you get out of there and get out of the classroom, show your support for the university, for the Bearcats. It's just a lot of fun. In addition to that, we also have a lot of programming events and organizations that focus on sort of the arts. We have the Anderson Center for the Performing Arts that I'm going to let Laura talk a bit about.
Yeah, this is one of my favorites. We have student-run plays that are performed so often on campus, and again, they bring in a big crowd, and it's really something to check out. They cover all different topics. So if you're looking for something, you want to see a play, you want to see a musical, we have even local artists that come to the Anderson Center. It's just really a great time.
In addition to that, we also have 9 a cappella groups. Throughout the year, they'll do what's called a dollar show, where just for $1 ticket, it gets you in to see the groups. They'll be at different events. They'll have their own sort of shows throughout the semester, and that's a lot of fun. In addition, we have performance groups such as the Newport African Drumming and Dance Ensemble, the University Orchestra, and the Harper Jazz Ensemble. Also not listed here is the University Art Museum, and that hosts different rotating galleries of art or of work either from a singular artist or from a certain period or on a certain subject. And that anyone can go and visit. It's open during the day throughout the week, and it's just really great, especially if you just want to see what different work there is, things like that. I've visited many times, and it's always been enjoyable. And then finally, we have career and alumni connections. So we have the Fleischman Center for Career and Professional Development. They'll host events on skills training, resume review, mock interviews, networking opportunities. They'll also host the job and internship fair. Um, Employment opportunities, we use what's called a Handshake. It's an online jobs database, which is for exclusive use for our Binghamton students. So that's another way, especially towards the end of your time here, of seeing what opportunities there are available, especially to BU students. Um, we also have graduate assistantships, which can be both academic based, so based in your area of expertise, or in that program, or non-academic, so helping in different offices in different roles, be they things you already are doing in your classwork or not really. And then alumni relations. We work a lot with our alumni to both help connect them with current students, to help those students find positions after they've graduated, providing experiences, while they're still in school, and things like that. I will let Veronica and Laura, who both, as we said earlier, graduate assistants in our office, just discuss a bit about their experience as a GA.
So I know for me, my position is the writer and communication specialist for the graduate school. So a lot of what I do is kind of the communication and marketing that is involved in graduate admissions, So I manage our Facebook page, which is just Binghamton University Graduate School, if you want to follow it. And I do like all sorts of just marketing and different types of outreach to sort of get students interested in the graduate school here.
And I work at the front desk of the graduate school, so I'm the one who you've spoken with on the phone or gotten emails from. Much of the time, I actually recognize some of these names. So yeah, and it's set up within the graduate school, so I interact with the students, and it's not too demanding. The assistantships are about 20 hours a week, because we want to allow time for study as well. So yeah.
Yeah, and I'll also mention, especially for Laura and I being like student affairs students, kind of being interested in like higher ed, our assistantships definitely cater to like what we learn in the classroom, which I think is a great part of having a grad assistantship on campus, is that it's usually very closely tied to what you're interested in doing career-wise and what you're doing in your program. So it's really, it really feeds into that whole like learning things in the classroom and then being able to apply them in your position. So.
And so now we're going to get to the question aspect of the webinar. So if you have any questions, I'm going to go back through our question feed, through the chat feed, see what questions we either have hit or have missed so far, try and go over them, as well as if you have any questions, please put them into the chat, and when the three of us will do our best to answer them. And if the need should arise, we'll have Lisa put a link or something, but we will see what we've been asked, and we will see what we can cover here. So the most recent question we have is the cost of living in Binghamton, and that's actually one of probably the most beneficial things, if you ask me, is that it's a low cost of living. So we tell students to expect roughly $15,100 per year, per academic year, including in rent, food, transportation, things like that. But again, in comparison to other areas, it's very low. So we've got questions about receiving fellowship and if it's not covering enough for living expenses. We usually recommend for students, there are the option, of course, taking out loans, part-time positions, both on campus, off campus, and things like that usually cover a lot of the expenses that students have and help them in many areas to get an expanded skill set and things of that nature. We've got a few questions about on-campus housing and the meal plans. So on-campus housing, again, there are certain areas reserved for graduate students that students can sign up. They're then given a time slot later in the summer to then apply for housing and try and get a spot. And then the meal plans are based right on, there's an online system that allows you to put money onto your ID card actually, and use that throughout campus. I would imagine just about all of us during our time here did that at some point. Just as a simple way of combining both your ID card, which you use for a lot of things, into a way of spending money. So you're not, having both, a debit and credit card, and then your ID card and things like that.
I guess I can take this next one about internet.
Of course.
So I think, again, this goes back to on-campus housing, internet accessibility on campus and outside the campus. Two things. So I would check out Residential Life office too if you're thinking about on-campus housing. And our Binghamton University has campus-wide Wi-Fi that you can sign on to with your what we call a PODS password, PODS login. You would have gotten that when you were admitted, I believe. So yep, there's Wi-Fi for everyone to access anywhere on campus, and our locations off campus that are still affiliated with the university. As far as off campus Wi-Fi, I mean, it's kind of how it is typically, I guess. Starbucks is going to have Wi-Fi, but it's really kind of community-based, I guess so much business-based if they offer that.
Yeah, what most students who live off campus will do is go through a local internet provider. I think in this area, Spectrum would be the local provider, and get a package from them, and that would vary on speeds, things like that. Whatever you would think you would need. If you're living with roommates, most often what people will do is one person will have it in their name, but they'll split the cost, making it incredibly affordable each month. But again, that's going to be based on individual needs. Um, we do have a question about the graduate student lounge on campus. What we currently offer is in our library on the first floor, there is a lounge slash study area specifically for graduate students. And I'll let Veronica talk a bit about what's offered there.
Yeah, so basically, it's kind of like a large room. There's individual desks and chairs for studying. It's a quiet study space. So again, if you're really looking to focus in on your schoolwork or finish a big assignment, it's a really good place to go because it's oftentimes if you go during the right time, it will be pretty empty. But even when it's not, everybody's quiet, studying, doing the same thing that you are. There's also a printer in that room specifically, so you don't have to go outside of that study lounge in order to print anything you need. And it's just a really good space. I really like it. It's pretty newly renovated, so it definitely like looks clean. It feels clean, and that's why I tend to study a lot there.
We also have a question about how hard is it to adjust to the rough winters for someone who isn't accustomed to snow? Um, you will get used to it, of course, speaking as someone who's been around the rough winters all their lives. Um, it takes a bit of getting used to in the beginning, and what I always recommend is to make sure you have a thick jacket and a good pair of gloves, because you will at some point need them. But it is one of the more enjoyable things, I think, when we get fresh snow, especially the first one of the year. I
Yeah,
mean,
if you've never seen it, it's something to see for sure.
Definitely.
towards the end, you will get a little
Yeah.
bored of it, but
We embrace the snow here, though.
all
Like we
things.
definitely, I think a lot of students like to do like the snow traying or whatever it's called. Like you see a lot of students that really embrace the weather here. It's not something that we sort of look at negatively necessarily. We definitely embrace it here. So
Here, what else do we? So the clubs that we've been talking about earlier actually don't require an application or a fee. During the beginning of the school year, what students will often get are what we call GIM emails, and those are for general interest meetings. So a lot of the clubs will post, on this date, this time, in this location, we're having a general interest meeting, and that's where the clubs will sort of talk about what they do, what the structure of their organization is, when they meet, all things associated with that, and it gives students a chance to see what is offered, see if they like it. And if at any time, you join a club and don't like it, it's very easy to just stop going and try something new. I mean, you could try a new club each semester, and it would take years to go through them all. So it really is up to whatever your preferences are.
yeah, but we do like to emphasize too that graduate students are allowed to join clubs. I think a lot of times there's a perception that clubs are only for undergraduate students, and as a grad student, you wouldn't have like the time or the interest to join a club. But we definitely encourage graduate students to look at the club offerings and join any clubs that they see as interesting.
We've got a question about students living on campus. So most students actually elect to live off campus for a variety of reasons, be it price, perhaps location to an off-campus job, or in the case of the College of Community and Public Affairs, being closer to their classrooms, or just to get a different sort of style of life, living downtown or perhaps living more in a suburban area, all depending on what you're interested in, what you like, and what you want to get out of your experience. Um,
I think the cost of living as well makes it very competitive to live off campus. Um, I think a lot of students find that they're able to kind of like split rent between multiple roommates and make it very cost effective to live either downtown or somewhere in the surrounding area.
It's also a great way to meet new people, meet friends. Some of my roommates are now some of my closest friends. And so there's a lot of reasons why students elect to live off campus. Um, So we've got a few questions about funding, be that in general or under research assistantships, things like that. Those are made at the department level, and so therefore all of those decisions stick with the departments, be it timelines when you'll find out or amounts of funding. So we always like to direct students who have specific questions about funding opportunities and things, related to the departments themselves, because they'll be the ones who'll be able to best answer your questions, look up their records and see what the options are. So we've got some questions about disadvantages to joining in spring, and there aren't too many. I wouldn't say any disadvantage really that sticks out of mind. It depends again on what your program is. Some programs, either have starting in spring or don't, and that'll all depend on what you're looking to get involved with. But many students defer to the spring or to the next year, all depending on personal circumstances.
Yeah, and if a program realizes that, just a spring semester isn't possible, they've made it so you can't apply for that. So I wouldn't, if that's something that was holding you back, I wouldn't let that hold you back.
So we've got a question about emergency medical services. So there actually is an on-campus group called Harper's Ferry, and it's student-run. They receive all the same training as any emergency medical services personnel would. They run an ambulance service on campus, and in addition to that, we have the Decker Health Services, which is a walk-in area for students. If you're feeling a little ill or you think you might have heard something or something like that, it is often a first a first point of contact for most students to go there and get checked out, and that is offered to all students, be they undergrad or graduate. So we've got a question about the Binghamton Airport service bus, and I believe that is the JFK bus. We do have a bus service that runs on certain dates during the summer in, I believe, July and August, to pick students up directly from John F. Kennedy International Airport. Those dates and times can be found online if you go to our website and just look up JFK bus. And the times are specifically designed for coinciding by a few hours with international flights. We also have an email if you have any questions about that, and it's int_arrive. We can also put that in the chat if it hasn't already been thrown in.
So I saw we had some questions about the internships, and Travis, please, chime in if I'm missing something. But a lot of that would be set up through the department and also through the Philanthropy Center. The departments would be the ones who have worked with previous employers in the past to, kind of get that relationship going as far as working with an internship.
Exactly. Another thing we always recommend is, if you have an interest in a certain area or a certain company or something, by all means talk to your professors about that. Even if they don't have any connections to it, they've been through the job search, of course, now being professionals, and they might have any advice. But that's something we always recommend is to talk to your professors about your interests and your areas of expertise. Because sometimes a simple conversation can lead to an internship, a job, or anything of that nature, or building your network. We have a question about do most students study full-time or part-time? In your expertise, what do you guys?
Well, I can speak for myself as I've done both. I started my program as a part-time student while working full-time. And I think depending on the program that you're in and who it's geared towards, say social work and nursing, some of that is part-time while people are currently working in their fields. I noticed more so with engineering that is a lot of full-time students. I guess it really depends. So my answer is yes and no. I would probably say on average it's more full-time students, but again, it depends on what program of study you're in.
So we did have a question about submitting transcripts. And in most cases, the electronic transcripts one gets, also known as sort of the unofficial transcripts, are acceptable for applying and for being admitted. However, before the end of your first semester here at Binghamton, we do require your official transcripts from your previous institution, be it undergrad or perhaps another graduate program or things of that nature. But yeah, we do require those before the end of your first semester in order to be eligible to apply for your following classes for like the spring semester or the second semester. Just going to go through and see if we have any questions that perhaps we've missed or that perhaps could use a bit more explanation. So we've got a question again about transportation. All depending, Ancilla, on your specific situation. So, there are many places here to buy a pre-owned car, to lease a vehicle, to purchase one. But in terms of getting around public transportation, I find myself is sufficient. I've used it many times, both coming and going to work or getting around the area if I just didn't feel like driving or something of that nature. I mean, do you guys find that you need one or the other? Do they both work?
I have a car, just because I've had a car. But I mean, we have the schedule for the Broome County bus for places that are local. I think that if you don't have a car, maybe it's worth getting here, figuring out the system a little bit, and see if it works for you. I don't think it's something that you have to stress about in terms of I have to get here and buy a car right away. I would see how it fits your schedule, and see if there's really any reason to get a car.
I would agree with that, yes. So, so the buses run usually begin roughly around 7 or 8 in the morning during the week, and run till later in the evening, 10 or 11. During the weekends, our buses, the OCCT buses, run a little later, both because folks are usually out later on the weekends, things like that, and so they do tend to work around students' schedules. And then we've got a question about used cars and the costliness of those. And those can vary. It all depends, again, on what you're looking for. I mean, there's no sort of set amount from, X, from one area to the other in terms of prices. But, as we've said before, we always recommend, try it out, see what if it's one's necessary or if you can get around with just the public transportation.
Yeah, I'll also reiterate again, having Uber in the area and Lyft and all of those services makes it convenient for when the bus isn't running. You can just grab an Uber. And also, I mean, a lot of people on campus do have cars, so it's useful to know somebody who has a car too. But again, just to reiterate, I don't think it would be necessary to have your own vehicle on campus. I think you can get around pretty easily without it.
All right, let's see what else we have. And has any more questions? Let's see what do we have here. Student loans for graduate programs. Does credit score matter? I believe it depends on the type of loan.
Yeah, I think that would be a financial aid question.
Yes.
I don't know.
No, I believe it depends on the loan. I'm not certain, but I would definitely recommend checking out our financial aid and our financial offering page on our website, because that'll definitely have information regarding types of loans and options like that.
And somebody asked about scholarships, so like other ways of paying for graduate school. I know on our graduate school website, there is a tab, costs and funding, and any like scholarships or external funding opportunities that we have there are on that website. And I believe Lisa just linked it as well in the chat.
Skill improvement trainings. There are very often different trainings, be they on certain programs such as Excel or Office or Word. Organizations will sometimes host
Yeah.
trainings, and students will actually get throughout their time here, be it daily updates on sort of upcoming events, things being hosted by different groups, and those can range. I mean, I've seen all kinds of different events being held, be they personal skills, networking skills, technical skills, again, running Excel or things like that needed for school. So we do have a lot of different ways that students can sort of expand their skill set.
Yeah, even internally in the graduate school, we have our graduate community of scholars that often puts on like different workshops and different events. I think a few months ago we had one about like formatting your CV and formatting your resume. We've had ones like specifically for more like academic type jobs, like if you're looking to become a professor after you graduate, that type of thing. They've hosted a variety of different workshops on different topics. So that's another good reason to follow the Facebook page, because I'll usually update those as well. So kind of get the word out for those.
We're getting closer to the end. We still have a few more minutes, but I always like to put this slide up towards the end. As my role as a graduate admissions counselor, I'm here to ask to help answer any of the questions you guys might be having regarding your coming to school here, coming to get a higher education here. So I always put this up. We will be sending out the slides, possibly a recording of the video, as I've said to many of you, and things. You can expect that relatively soon. But again, we'll continue answering your questions until we get closer to the time towards the end of the webinar. But if anyone does have anything that perhaps we didn't get to or you wanted more information on, by all means, please reach out to me, and I'd be more than happy to help answer those questions there. I've got a question here about areas to avoid, and when it comes to choosing housing, and I would say there's no one area to avoid or one that's great. I would say that the best option is when you visit a house or an apartment and see if you like the area. Most often, people people get a sense of what they like or dislike, but there's no one area that's should be avoided. I would say that safety is a concern both on campus and off campus.
Yeah, safety is definitely a priority here. And I know just from the perspective of me living downtown, I've never felt unsafe walking alone or anything like that, like to and from class. It's definitely a safe area, and typical like safety rules apply. Walk with a friend, that type of thing. But that goes for any campus, any area. So yeah.
We've also got a question about summer research or travel funding, and there is the ability for students to get funding to travel to a conference or to sort of other events similar to like academic conferences, and those are available in our website again under financial aid. And I believe they're up to around $500 depending on if you are presenting a paper or things like that.
Somebody asked if they're going to receive this webinar as a recording. I believe we're putting it on YouTube. Is that correct?
We are in the process of working to record all of our webinars to allow students, again, the chance to go through them in greater detail. Perhaps you missed the first 10 minutes, so you couldn't make it for the last half an hour. And that is something we will be working to roll out. I am not 100% certain if this will, if it will be rolled out with this webinar, but again, that is our hope. To have them all online so that students can look through and get more information about the area. Again, we've got about 5 minutes left. As I said before, feel free to reach out to me. That is my email. It's the quickest way to get a hold of me. And we work in the graduate school very hard to make sure that our students understand, what opportunities they have, what some of the options are, things like that. We want you to know, what the campus is like when you get here, before you get here, so that when you get here, it feels like home. You have a question about health precautions, and there's nothing that I can think of. Other than that, during the winter, it is very likely that you will get sick from the common cold, a sort of a downside of being in confined quarters. But other than that, nothing.
Take lots of vitamin C.
Yes.
You'll be just fine.
Again, we're sort of. Another question?
Somebody asked about like international working hours. Definitely there is a strict visa requirement of 20 hours. Definitely adhere to that. So if you are looking into a particular position, be it an assistantship or whatever it may be, definitely adhere to those requirements and work with your supervisor or whomever to ensure that you're complying with those requirements.
And as Lisa put in the chat, some positions might only be available for certain amounts of time. And again, it's going to be a case-by-case basis based on your needs, requirements, stipulations, things like that. And so it's always best, as Veronica said, speak with supervisors and things like that and figure out what's going to be best for you and what's going to work. Again, we've only got about 3 more minutes left. And I do want to thank those of you who were able to join us today. I hope that this was an informational webinar, that it gave you a bit more about campus and a bit more information about what there is on campus, what life is like here. It's more than just education. There are cultural opportunities, there are networking opportunities, and just a whole list of opportunities to expand one's sort of horizons. There will be 2 more webinars. This is the second of 4 that we like to give to our newly admitted students to help them feel comfortable when they get to campus. So I always recommend to everyone to keep an eye out. You will be getting some more, I'm blanking on the word, invitation to the following webinars. But like I said, thank you for joining us, and thank you for your time. Again, I hope everyone was able to get some good information from this, and I hope you guys are excited to get here as we are excited to have you here. Again, from all of us here at Binghamton, thank you so much for joining us. Have a good afternoon, morning, evening, and we hope to see you.
Take care.
Bye.